Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about empty houses in a natal horoscope. Now, I want to clear up one misperception or misconception people may have on this. Now, empty houses in a natal chart doesn't indicate that the person is going to be stagnant or dormant in that particular sector or area of that life. Could there be a feeling of unfulfillment? That's possible, and I think in that particular area or areas in those houses that are indeed empty in that person's chart. Now, what we have to remember is that there's 10 planets in a natal chart, and there's 12 houses, so there will always be at least 2 houses that are empty. Most people will have at least 4 houses that are empty. So having an empty house doesn't mean that you're not going to be active in connection with it, that you're just going to be dead and not do anything in association with that house. Now, you might feel maybe that this particular area of your life you might not really worry about it that much, or maybe you just don't accentuate or emphasize it much, but you're going to be doing things in association with it. I mean, everybody has 12 houses in their natal chart, and there's always going to be something connected with those areas of life that person will be doing. I mean, somebody that has, like me, a Taurus ascendant, and let's say that the person didn't have any planets in that particular house, it doesn't mean they're not going to exude any Taurus characteristics as far as their outward demeanor goes. It just means that there's no planets in there that are flavoring that house. Now, I have the moon in Gemini in the first house, so a lot of times I think people will see my Gemini moon characteristics come out on a first impression, it flavors my Taurus rising to some degree. Now, I mean, you have people that have no planets in the second house. Anthony Robbins, the renowned motivational guru, has no planets in the second house, but he generates a lot of money. I went on Wikipedia today, and he was worth like $480 million. So I'd say he knows his way around as far as financial acumen and ability to make money goes. And we have to remember that everybody does have empty houses. Empty houses can be impacted by transits. Now, let's say somebody doesn't have any planets in the second house, but in a transit, let's say Jupiter goes into that person's second house. Now, Jupiter, I believe, transits a sign for about, on average, like 12 to 13 months. So it's going to stay in that person's second house on average for about that time period, because an average house is 30 degrees. Now, that person may experience things that are fortuitous in connection with money during that time, might have a little more fortune, have a little bit more luck than otherwise indicated in association with money. But when you look at empty houses, first thing you look at the sign on the cusp of that house. Now, let me take my chart for example. Now, I have Aquarius on the cusp of my 10th house, okay, my MC. I have no planets in the 10th house. It doesn't mean I never had or will have any career aspirations or aims or any livelihood. There's no planets that are flavoring it. It might mean that I'm not putting a lot I don't look at it really as really that significant. I might not have much worry or concern about it. I might be I'm expending, more likely than not, more energy in the houses that have planets. But back to the 10th house with Aquarius on it. Now, you look at the sign on the cusp of that house. Now, with Aquarius on it, it could indicate that maybe a career interest for me could be something in connection with computers, electronics, astrology, esoteric subjects, innovation, and astrology obviously is something that I'm strongly connected with. So, and I also have, you look at the ruling planet and see what house it's in. Now, I looked at Uranus, and that is a very close conjunction. It's in my 6th house, and it's also very closely conjoined the 6th house. So Uranus in the 6th house of work, I think it just shows you that could very well reinforce maybe my interest in astrology as far as working goes, and also it could indicate that maybe a career interest in me could be connected with a health related field. Now, I did work as a stock clerk when I was between 16 and 19 years old. I worked in a health food store, so maybe that has something to do with it. It could indicate that I could be interested in health, nutrition related fields. Things are in conjunction with exercise and fitness, those kind of professions. So just because somebody has a vacant house doesn't mean that there is that you're not going to have energy associated with it, because everybody has something associated with all their houses and what they represent, that sector or facet of life in their lives. So those are the things to look at, and also look and see what the aspects that are made to that ruling planet of that house that is empty. And this will tell something too. If somebody in the 10th house, look at the ruling planet, and let's say it makes a plethora of good aspects, this could indicate that the career might be advantageous to the person, and there may not be many roadblocks or obstructions. A good aspect to Jupiter, for example, could indicate perhaps some fortune, and it could be very auspicious for career-related matters. So those are some things to look at, and the main thing that I'm trying to convey in this is that an empty house is not the end of the world, because all of us have them. And it's just like somebody that has an empty 5th house doesn't mean they're not going to have any romance in their life or any children. It could just indicate that maybe they're not really, it's not something that the person is necessarily strongly emphasizing or accentuating. It could indicate perhaps a lack of fulfillment, but it doesn't mean that the person's not going to have children in his or her life. So that's something and these things are all important to consider when you're looking at empty houses in a natal chart. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for empty houses in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about what it means having an empty 1st house in a natal chart. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.